Everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Man, he's okay. Hope you guys are doing okay. What's up, everyone? In this video, I want to look at Mars Neptune hard aspects. So, guys, before we begin, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. And subscribe if you have not already. So, what is Mars and Neptune? So Mars, as you probably know, just a brief recap, is masculine aggression, right? Masculine energy. It's the initiating drive that gets things going, right? It's initiating action. It rules Aries and Scorpio. It's the planet of war, of of getting shit done, of the two F's, effing and fighting. um Mars is a very passionate planet. It rules like muscles and um, all the masculine male attributes, including a lot of physical things like war, but also playing instruments. It can be um, anything physical, mechanical ability, really, right? Mars is also has, it definitely has its um correlation to the mind as well. It's not just purely brawn, right? It can mean a very kind of mechanical aptitude, or kind of hard thinking, aggressive, intellect, argumentation, things like that. um Facts and logic would, it's not its primary attribute, but it definitely can help in those areas. I've even seen it play a strong role in intuition or psychic ability as well, right? So it's not limited to like only like the most obvious male masculine stereotypes. What is Neptune? Neptune is very exotic. Rules It rules Pisces, or co-rules Pisces, right? It is one of the outer planets. It's very nebulous and expansive. It deals with imagination, the subconscious mind, personal psychology, all the 12th house stuff, hidden things, illusion, delusion, fantasy, creativity, right? It Sometimes you'll see it in very like exotic looking people, exotic women, um ideologies, fantasies, expansion of the mind, drugs, alcohol. Um, it could be in like really like insane, because of the delusional aspect, but it can be very like esoteric, spiritual, um, psychological. I think I said psychological, but like psychic, right? Really mystical, etheric kind of energy. Expansive, nebulous, right? Loss, it rules loss as well. So when you put these two together, what you have is a very kind of interesting, like, well, on the one hand, very like solid Mars, solid, aggressive, physical, initiating action, and then on the other hand, something very expansive, imaginative, right? Film, photography, movies, stories, creativity, music, arts, right? All that stuff. And so it can go different ways. I often think of Don Quixote, the story, where the Don Quixote is like, thinks the windmill is a dragon and he's chasing it with his lance, right? So it's a very quixotic combination, right? Because on the one hand, you have physical action, and on the other hand, you have fantasy, delusion, or creativity, art. So you have all this kind of, chasing dragons kind of theme, um, artists, actors, musicians, including, political types who are, or business types who are just chasing a dream, chasing a vision, right? And it depends what the aspect is, how that's going to manifest. I'm only going through the hard aspects, which are the conjunction. The conjunction is both easy and hard, but conjunction, opposition, square, and inconjunct. You could apply the trine and sextile just, otherwise it gets too much, but the thing is that the trine and sextile are going to be similar to um you're most similar to the conjunction or opposition, but without any of the hard aspects, because they're the most harmonious. So they will represent the smoothest kind of application of these planets. So if you have the trine or the sextile, just know that you're going to have the easiest of these aspects, and it'll represent more in like skills and abilities or easy things that happen. So I have the trine. Right, I have a very exact trine between my ascendant Lord Mars in Leo and Neptune in the second house in Sag, and I can tell you that I have visions. I call myself a visionary, and you're gonna see more of that. There's some things that I have in the works, some projects I have in the works that you'll see that have to do with that. But anyway, so it has to do with that. Let's get right into it. Share my screen. I have it on here, but I'm actually going to start with Prince. All right, Prince, the musician. Now, this is just in alphabetical order. He had the inconjunct by 2 degrees, you can see. And so Mars is ascendant lord. It is his sixth lord. And it's in very powerful Aries at 0 degrees, right? And we all know, even though he was incredibly talented, like we see that with the Gemini, Mercury, and Sun, also the Mars is playing a tremendous role in his ability to just play every single instrument, right? You can pick up an instrument and learn it and play it, master it. So he's great at that. That has a lot to do with his Mars at 0 degree, very powerful degree for any planet, but Aries. And then it's inconjunct Neptune in the 12th. So anytime you have an inconjunct, just take note of which planet is in the the way I see it is it's a 6/8 relationship. So which is in the sixth, which is in the eighth. The eighth house will be the dominant position. So here we have Neptune in the eighth position, right? Because if we look at it, opposite from Mars is Libra. One forward from that, one house up from that is Scorpio. So that's a dominant. So then the way I see it is that his Neptune, his creativity, his scorpionic creativity, which is also tied to his North Node, is in the 12th house, highly creative, right? Water, 12th house, Neptune, North Node. Highly, highly creative, imaginative. That's leading the way. And then his Mars, his initiating action, his ability to be like hypersexual, aggressive, and he wasn't like he had no aggression, but playing instruments and all that, that was serving his creativity. And then we have a third one, if you want to tie that, his Pluto, that was in service to his Mars, right? So it was all in service to his creativity. This is a yod, by the way. People make a bigger deal out of this than they have to. It just shows two inconjuncts. And so the apex is the Mars, Mars in service to Neptune, Pluto in service to Mars. His public image, very powerful career, was in service to his Mars, which was in service to his Neptune, which was his creativity, his creative. It's pretty straightforward. The inconjunct just shows there's a certain imbalance. It's obviously getting the message across, but Neptune obviously here can relate to things like drugs and alcohol. So, and relating to his untimely death, obviously Pluto as well, Neptune and Scorpio. So anyway, there's 40 charts, so I can't spend too long on any one of them. So I'm just going to keep going. You're going to get the gist of it. You're going to see a lot of patterns. And that's what I want, out of this, for you guys to recognize the patterns and see it for yourself. Right. Here we have Ben Affleck with Mars also 0 degrees, but here in Virgo. And this is the square by 2 degrees, Neptune. Right. So you'll see this a lot with actors, musicians, artists, that type of thing. I said that, right? So Mars in his third house is expression, um, square Neptune. So obviously it's gonna be great for acting, right? But this could be, in real life, this might mean some sort of delusion. I've heard Ben Affleck talk about stuff. He's not the crystal clearest person, you know, about his ideas and whatnot. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. That's it's not saying that this aspect would always make somebody who wasn't, but it could potentially lead to some misstep, delusional misstep, right? But really good for acting, arts, and the square is going to bring in a little bit of that tension, right? He has that. Um, let's keep going. Um, this one obviously is not a person. It's the I guess the Sibley chart they call it, July 4th, 1776. Yeah, July 4th is not just like some random date. That's actually when the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia, my hometown. I can walk to the Independence Hall. Um, Kind of an intense chart, right? If this was a person, you'd be like, wow, a lot of red lines here, right? But some great dignity as well. Saturn in Libra in the 10th house. Wow, powerful. Jupiter in Cancer, conjunct the sun, exalted Jupiter, right? Um, yeah, but so here we have Mars square Neptune, right? Mars in the 7th house, Neptune in the 9th, but 10th whole sign house. And I think that really points to like this kind of American dream, right? Like, come to America, you can work hard and, become a millionaire or something like that, right? Um, that is very much represented by this, like work hard in business and become success, big success. Yeah. So, um, essentially, I mean, that's it. Like the work hard, Mars, Gemini, 7th house, business, right? Media, business in general, 7th house, right? Neptune, dream. Yeah. Maya Angelou. Now, she is the opposition here. Neptune right on the ascendant, basically, 3 degrees, in Leo, retrograde. That's okay. Opposite Mars. Mars in Ceres. So this would actually, I I don't know about her relationships, but this would point to some relationships that she has, probably delusional ones. Being Mars is in the 7th house, Mars would dictate the kind of guys that she likes and that she's attracted to, and also how she is in relationships in general. Kind of bossy, Mars, right? Also Ceres is here, so perhaps some loss in relationships, right? Some even potential disgrace. um yeah, I know she was briefly a sex worker when she was young, but anyway, this you know shows some unusual type relationships, fantasy based, um delusional potentially, but creative as well. I mean, it's bringing in a lot of creativity with her action. Um, you know, she's also a good cook, so that's probably related to that as well. Um, Mars being very physical. So you guys, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that we could point to for other things going on in her life, but we're just talking about Mars, Neptune right now. Cardi B. Cardi B. That's not a very good name. I'll tell you why, because it was named after Bacardi. And so that psychologically she named herself after a bottle of hard liquor. No. It's not a good trick for like psychology, like to have like a healthy, happy, good life to name yourself after a bottle of hard liquor, right? Just like you don't want to name yourself like cocaine or fentanyl. Not a good idea. In any case. Um, let's see here. I'm like not even finding. Okay, Mars, Neptune. Right, here we go. Okay, obviously, Mars and Cancer in the fourth. So home life, early life, not very good because it's also her ascendant lord. And this she better take care of her health. But yeah. Um, Rough upbringing, violence, hypersexualization, Mars and Cancer, right? But it's dignifying the 10th house in Capricorn, where it's exalted, and this Neptune, Uranus. So like shocking, creative, sudden rise to, also Ceres is here, so perhaps some public loss of, you know, some perhaps disgrace or something like that, right? But um from you know from this very rough childhood that actually added to her public allure, public image, especially with this Neptune here, which is really going to glamorize. Neptune is going to apply all the sparkles and glitter, right, to something that was obviously very difficult and rough and not pretty. Um, so yeah, Cardi B. Javier Bardem, No Country for Old Men, flips the coin, friendo. But he's got like, and his voice is one of his main characteristics, and that's true with a lot of actors. And he's got that Neptune Mars conjunct at a sign conjunction in the second house. He's got that tremendous voice, very powerful, right? And then even though it's out of sign conjunction, Mars is dignifying this Neptune. So yeah, so just like this image, the voice, very powerful, excellent for the kind of roles he plays. I mean, Neptune is the planet for movies. Marlon Brando got the inconjunct. Very powerful. Again, very powerful Mars in the second house in Capricorn, exalted. Inconjunct Neptune in Leo. So it's a little bit different, right, than Javier Bardem. Um, let's see here. Yeah, so Neptune's in the dominant position. It's in the ninth house. It's in Leo. So this Mars is in service to this Neptune. Neptune creative, ninth house, expert, the house of, I mean, many things, but expertise, right? You get a college degree, a graduate degree, you're considered an expert. That's one of the things about the ninth house is it's very high level, high minded, right? So he's like you know, the perception, the glamour is that of like something like he's an expert actor, right? Not that he's not, but it's like that's where his Neptune is in the ninth house, Leo, right? And so his Mars is in service to this kind of big image. I guess you could say that. I don't think it really matters. Um, it shows a kind of it shows a dominating kind of a conflicting, unequal relationship. But anyway, it's difficult to pinpoint exactly how that would differ from somebody like Javier Bardem. Um, but we don't have to be um I couldn't tell you right now how that would how that differs, honestly. Because Neptune's not a person. So if this was like a more personal planet, I would be like, oh, this is how it's that different. But anyway, I think it's just a vibe that you could feel because Neptune is very nebulous anyway. So interesting. Richard Branson. I'll tell you what, the inconjunct will give you more of a it'll bring out the delusional aspect more. So a person can become more quixotic with the square or the inconjunct or the opposition rather than the conjunction, I believe. Richard Branson, Mars Neptune. So he was chasing, this is in his third house, um, a vision, right? A unified vision, Mars and Neptune in his intellect, media, Virgin Atlantic. He's spread out. So third house obviously has that, it's bringing in that Gemini, the mercurial quality, right? It's still different, but it's making it very diverse, right? And he's like Virgin's everywhere, right? It's in travel. I mean, that's North Node Aries, ninth house cusp, right? Um, but it was also in like media, like telephone, Virgin, he does all kinds of stuff, but let's bring in that third house element, right? Especially with Mars, Libra, business, Neptune, vision. Pretty obvious there. James Brown, Mars, Neptune. Yeah. South node, Jupiter, Virgo. First house, second whole sign house. Jupiter is actually on the second house cusp, but it's his persona, his body, his image going, from his ascendant to his appearance and the way he dresses. Like there's a flow there, obviously. It's not like a hard line. And Mars is in there, more in the first house, Neptune, South Node, right? Virgo. What's interesting is that South Node's in Virgo, North Node's in Pisces. When he was young, he was much more Virgo-ish, right? Uptight, kind of not uptight. I don't know, Virgo's not uptight, but clean, right? Proper, right? And then as he gets older, he's much more Piscean, wild, crazy, drugs, alcohol, being reckless, right? That's his version of Pisces. Just letting loose. But yeah, Mars, Neptune also for dancing. Forget it. Mars, Neptune is going to be great, especially if it's relating to the first house, perhaps 12th house, third house, things like that. Sylvia Brown, famous psychic, Mars, Neptune in Virgo, but in the eighth house, right? You wouldn't think Virgo is going to be very psychic, but it is for her. And it's opposite Saturn in Pisces, right? Mars ruling the third house, or intellect, and her MC, her career, right? Psychic career. I've seen Mars in eighth house be psychic plenty of times. Obviously, it's helped tremendously by Neptune. Neptune can be very, very psychic. Michael Caine, famous actor. Um, Mars, Neptune, Virgo, fourth house. And so if you see like somebody with a strong fourth house, they're going to be typecast as a kind of a person from a particular area, right? Because they're embodying their home environment. So he always plays in his movies this Cockney kind of persona, Cockney England, right? Cockney accent, Cockney British, and that's fourth house, right? Virgo quality, and Neptune obviously, and then Mars brings in the male, the masculine kind of quality, right? So yeah, fourth house for that being typecast as a Cockney Brit. Bill Clinton, Slick Willie, Mars, Neptune, Libra, right on his ascendant, right? I mean, come on, Mars, Neptune, like, uh, having sex, trying to hide it, you know, sex in the Oval Office, getting head, getting fellatio, being deceptive about it. I mean, um, when he was confronted about something, like one of his answers was, "It depends what the definition of is." It's like, what the fuck, like you seriously trying to pull the wool over all of our eyes. We're not all that dumb, but like, yeah, I mean, Libra is out of like, Libra is the sign of people, right? Libra is the sign of being able to negotiate with people, right? And so Neptune in Libra especially, it's going to be, a master bullshitter. Anyway, Joan Collins, famous actress. Um, Mars, Neptune in the sixth house, right? So TV show, she was in a soap opera. She was in a lot of stuff, but I forgot which one, like Dallas or something. Days where I don't know. Um, Days where I don't know. Is that an? That's another one. Mars, Neptune, sixth house. Yeah, TV show, periodical, regular. It's pretty straightforward. Virgo, Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer. Oof, EBDBs. Um, yeah, Mars, Neptune in conjunct, right? And so here it's more obvious, right? Than say Marlon Brando. I don't know enough about Marlon Brando to really maybe he was chasing windmills, right? But Jeffrey Dahmer certainly was. Again, very powerful Mars Moon, so like taking advantage of others, right? Mars Moon is not a great combination, especially if Mars is really strong, right? Um, yeah, and he's a man, right? So um Mars ruling the seventh and the second value trophy. He wants a trophy. Ugh. Um, yeah. So Mars is actually dignifying this Neptune, but this Neptune is his delusion, it's his fantasy, it's in his first house, it's very personal. And it's tying into his second because second whole sign house, so like value, possessions, ownership, right? Um, Mars is in the subservient position. So it's Mars is serving his fantasy, his delusion of ownership, of possession, of very intimate. I'm saying possession because it's still tying into the second house, even though it's in the first quadrant. So it's like very deep personal ownership, especially with Scorpio, who wants to possess others, right? Scorpio wants to own others. He wants to own other people, right? Like if there's a slave owner, it's Scorpio, right? And so he has delusions of personal ownership, and he's going to use his very powerful Mars to take advantage of others. Moon, you see that? That's very prominent there. So anyway, that's how the inconjunct will play out in that chart anyway. F. Scott Fitzgerald, amazing writer. So Mars, Neptune, exact. The more exact a conjunction is or an aspect, that the more profound it's going to be, right? So F. Scott Fitzgerald, if you never read him, like go read him, you'll understand. This guy was, I mean, he was a great writer, but his writing style was like incredibly um what? Like lacy. It was like it wasn't like what's interesting is that Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald were friends, and Hemingway wrote about them doing stuff together. But Hemingway was like this really masculine, like journalist who fought in war and very aggressive. And F. Scott Fitzgerald was like this dainty fellow who could not keep up with him. Hemingway was getting drunk all the time. Scott Fitzgerald was trying to keep up, but like getting sick because he couldn't handle it. He didn't have the constitution, but an amazingly poetic, almost effeminate writer, right? He wrote very, very delicately, but beautifully, profoundly. Right? So anyway, Mars, Neptune, exact in the fifth house, fifth cusp, exact on the fifth cusp, right? In Gemini. Conjunct Pluto too. So, definitely an element of destructiveness there. But Neptune, the exotic, beautiful, right? So yeah. Gandhi. Gandhiji fighting for his ideology. Here we also have the inconjunct, right? Again, very tight inconjunct between Mars and Scorpio, very powerful Mars in the first house, moving to the second, conjunct Venus as well, inconjunct Neptune in the sixth in Aries, right? And so Neptune is in the sixth position compared to Mars. So Mars is in the eighth. Mars is more powerful. It's also more powerful in dignity. So Gandhi is in the superior position over his ideology, right? Well, this Mars is Mars ruling the second house, so his resources, so powerful resources he has at his disposal. He's also going to use other second house things, which is food, right? Fasting. He fasted to achieve his goals, his ideologies of independence for Britain, right? Uh, Britain against Britain for India. Sorry. Um, Hate when I say stupid things, but I do sometimes. It's also opposite Pluto and Jupiter, so that's really interesting as well. But like definitely a lot of fighting, right? And overcoming. Um, the opposition is not really about, it's about equality, it's about balance. But when you have the inconjunct, it's one side overcoming another side. And here, if it's Neptune, it's some fantasy, some delusion, some ideology, some winning over an ideology. Sixth house, something mundane. Obviously, this is like, has to do with him, with his struggle over, freedom of, you know, for India. Interestingly, Uranus is conjunct the MC from the ninth, right? So politics, social issues. Alexander the Great. Let me just read because it's kind of he did a lot. He was the Greek emperor, or king of the ancient Greek kingdom. Um, He conducted military campaigns throughout Western Asia. He overthrew the Persian Empire, right? When we look at it, like the 300, the Persians and the Greeks. Um, he carried Macedonian arms to India, laid the foundation. Um, yeah, he expanded the Greek empire vastly from Egypt to India. So, um, and then we see Mars in Gemini, square Neptune, right? By 1 degree in Virgo with Jupiter here. Right. So Mars and Gemini in the third. So that's definitely about like travel, even short distance travel, but because Mars is very physical, but also aggression, intellect. Obviously, Pluto conjunct the ascendant is going to make a brilliant strategist, right? Who wants to control, obviously. But just the Mars Neptune, that's creating that aggressive kind of, you know, fighting dragons kind of theme, chasing dragons. Um, Jupiter also is tied in there. It's ruling the ninth, so long distance travel, short distance travel, long distance travel, fighting, sixth house, third house. Che Guevara, similar, right? Che has Mars in Pisces. He's got a Uranus conjunct the ascendant. Also, but it's direct, right? It's not retrograde. Mine's retrograde, just to give you an idea. A retrograde Uranus is going to rebel against the rebellion, right? But Che is just going to embrace the rebellion. He's like, full on communist. But for a retrograde Uranus, communism's like dumb. Um, Anyway, Mars, it's not exact, but here, Mars in conjunct Neptune. It's not even drawing a line here for, I don't know why, but it's within 2 degrees. It's under 2 degrees, so it's still pretty tight. Um, so, and then Mars is in the dominant position, right? And so he's also chasing dragons in his revolutionary way. Not a huge fan of Che Guevara. I mean, it's dumb. It's dumb. Socialism's dumb. But anyway, Mars and Pisces, like that's very, already Mars and Pisces in the 12th house is going to have a similar quality to Mars and Neptune anyway, because it's bringing in the imagination, it's bringing the creativity, it's bringing in the martial arts, if you will, the physicality in the 12th house, right? Um, And then fifth house, for glory. Sir Mars and no, Neptune is in service, actually. Um, to the Mars, the fame, the glory, fifth house, Neptune, Leo. So he's seeking some kind of glory as well. Definitely. Some delusional fantasy of glory, fame, things like that. Napoleon, right? All these dragon chasers. Ah, Mars, Neptune in the 11th house. Virgo. Political, social. I mean, people often don't recognize this. They don't, a lot of astrologers don't talk about this. But the 11th house has and Uranus and Aquarius. They all have that political social quality, right? It's not just friends and communities and networks. Yes, it's that, but extend that to something more and you get politics, you get social issues, you get worldliness, right? And so he was very worldly, thinking about the world, wanting to conquer the world, right? He's also got Sun conjunct Ceres, which is not a great combination, but Sun is strong here. And it's in conjunct Chiron, so a bit of a reject, a bit of a weirdo, and he was. But he made up for it. He definitely had a complex, I would say that, right? This is not very, this shows some loss, some rejection, right? But even though the Sun is strong, so he's very confident. Billy Idol. Billy Idol's like almost like a caricature of himself, right? He took the punk rock persona and was like, let's make it into a cartoon. I mean, come on. Um, Mars, Neptune, Mars in Scorpio, Neptune in Libra. Um, in the sixth house, sixth cusp, basically. So something very regular, daily, mundane. He was, I mean, he wasn't he took the I mean it's the corruption of punk rock is what it is. But he's got a very powerful chart and he made, radio worthy music. I'm not dissing him. It is what it is. He was made a lot of money, made a lot of success, and he's got a lot of planets in sharp aspect to each other. So of course that's going to be powerful, right? If you see like really strong shapes, especially that are on both sides, that's gonna show order. But Mars not Mars really most of the six here and the 12th. So creativity. Anyway, he made everyday music. Sixth house. Kylie Jenner. She made billions of dollars. So I mean, we might as well look at her chart. She sold a fortune of makeup, right? So Mars, Chiron square Neptune. Mars, Chiron square Neptune, right? And why would people still sticking this Tyrol story? Chiron, the wounded healer. Is Kylie Jenner a fucking wounded healer? Give me a goddamn break. She's not a goddamn wounded healer. Her career is not wounded healing, right? No, she's a Chiron herself. She is a one of a kind, unique, you know, individual, and that's what it really means. Um, Something very, very unique and unusual. And in this case, it works for her, right? Mars in Libra. Okay, so makeup, so good for fashion and makeup and jewelry. I don't know what she does. But it's square Neptune, so it's like, gonna be all about glamour, right? In the first house, it's in the first house. So yeah, Jupiter in the second. So obviously, Uranus gonna make some money, but yeah. And then Mars is square. Mars is dignifying this Neptune because it's in Capricorn. So it's, you know, obviously this Mars not very strong, but Libra is good for like that fashion, girly stuff. Steve Jobs, the smartest guy in the room, because his Mercury's in Aquarius stationary, so he's like brilliant, right? Fifth house, entertainment. But anyway, Mars, Neptune opposition. Okay. So this is the direct opposition. This is you know, just like the visionary. I mean, conjunct would be as well, opposition is going to be, it's gonna happen more in a relational situation. So like this is more like his Mars, which is ruling his eighth house, very powerful. It's in the eighth house Aries. Third house, intellect. He's going to get inspired whenever he interacts with other people, right? Neptune is not going to be anyone individual, but it's going to be represent a whole bunch of different people, right? It's going to represent a whole bunch of different situations, and different situations are going to inspire him. He's going to get visions from them. He's going to go and, I don't know whether it's true or not, the acid, the Himalayas, the Buddhist crap, stuff like that. It's not crap, but it would require certain situations to stimulate the kind of Neptunian vision. But yeah, clearly, Steve Jobs, Apple, vision. Frida Kahlo. Frida Kahlo got impaled by a pole, and we can see that here, right? This very powerful Mars, Uranus, accident, South Node, fifth house Capricorn, so very powerful Mars, exalted, attacking her sun and Neptune, loss. But she was very creative as well, artistic, right? And incredible artist. Turned her injury into an asset. Yeah. 11th house. Also, Sun is the ascendant lord, so that's her body, right? The Sun is her body. Right opposite this powerful Mars and Uranus. Accident. Paul Klee. Okay, so I chose my background today, especially because it's a Paul Klee painting. Not a great one, but it's pretty boring, but it is a Paul Klee painting. So he was an artist. So he had Mars, Neptune in Taurus in the seventh house. But what's interesting is Mars is the ascendant lord, but it's also opposite Venus, and there's a mutual reception. And Mars is also stationary, right? So that's really powerful. But yeah, Mars, Neptune, Chiron, right? So very unusual, relationships, others, but just in general, kind of otherness, but it's tied to himself. Yeah. Neptune for the abstraction, Chiron for the creativity, one of a kind. Avril Lavigne, another fake punk rocker. And this one makes so much sense. I mean, Libra sun, Libra rising. Libra is not punk rock. Libra is great for many things, not for punk rock. Of course, she got this whole Scorpio stellium, with Pluto, Venus, Moon, Saturn, South Node, right? But Sun and Ascendant makes it it's like detracting from it, right? And then Uranus and Sag, right? So she's like fine. I mean, she makes a lot of money, I'm sure. I don't know. But anyway, she doing what she wants. Mars, Neptune in Sag in the third house. So she plays instruments too, right? Third house. And so that's cool. Right? Like, I don't hate her. It's not punk rock. It's pop. It's pop music dressed as punk rock. With some punk rock aesthetic added to it, whatever. Yeah, anything else about that? Mars ruling her second house in the third, so that's good for singing. Vladimir Lenin, another dragon chaser. In Aries, in the fifth house, right? So seeking some kind of perhaps there was an element of, ego, enjoyment, fun, games for him, although it wasn't fun in games at all. A lot of people died. But North Node, Uranus, that's obvious, politics, social issues. Scorpio rising, so that very kind of heavy, daunting persona, like myself. Although, I don't know. Anyway, Mars ruling the fifth house and Ascendant Lord and the 12th house. Uh, so interesting. Yeah, definitely a lot of fantasy, delusion, ideology, right? Going into um his turning Russia into a communist country, killing lots of people in the process. John Malkovich, Mars Neptune in the second house, right? Great character actor. Really bringing in that it's in Libra, right? So you can see like the difference with the second house signs, right? Like so like Brando, Mars and Capricorn second house. Javier Bardem, was it? I don't remember. Was it Mars and Aries? Mars and Scorpio, maybe. Anyway, here we have Mars and Libra. So John Malkovich is obviously not a tough guy. He's more like the um he's a great character actor. He can play anything, right? Libra is just gonna be all over. It's not, it's gonna, it's gonna be anything. It's gonna be mutable. It's not mutable, it's cardinal. But it's gonna be very, as far as playing different people, yeah, great. Um Mars is ruling the eighth. That's interesting. And the fifth house. That's excellent. That's good for acting. The eighth house is pretty powerful. So it's not a strong Mars, but good for Libra stuff. Charles Manson. Um, again, chasing dragons. Mars Neptune, fifth house. And also he was into heavily into music, and he had this whole thing, delusion, fantasy about the Beatles, like they were speaking to him, right? But he wrote music and he sang. Not very successful, but I think actually somewhat talented. Like he had semi-talent there. But Mars ruling the seventh, um, and the 12th. So interesting, like his way with people, right? His ability to manipulate others. Right? Fantasy, Neptune, delusion, sell people on his delusions. And there's this great fixed square, spent most of his life in prison. Marilyn Monroe. Obviously, the exotic Neptune in the first house in Leo. Um, with Ceres. Ceres is loss. Neptune is drugs and alcohol. So that played out. And then opposite or in conjunct Mars. Mars in Pisces in the eighth house. Very sexual and powerful. It's in the dominant position with this Neptune. And so it's with also with Uranus, so that Uranus is accidents, trauma, sudden events, and things like that. So that played out as well. Pisces, drugs, alcohol again, right? Um, Mars ruling the ninth and fourth. So youth, right? Young. Um, this powerful sexuality. Um, Neptune, the glamour. So this is in service somehow to the Mars, with the inconjunct, something, yeah, kind of creates a delusional quality. Not a very good, not very good for either, especially bringing in the eighth house quality. And then Neptune rules Pisces, is the co-ruler of Pisces. So yeah, I mean, just this eighth house, first house vibe is not great with the Pisces, Neptune, Ceres, Mars, Uranus. She died from drug overdose, I think. All right, Demi Moore. Let's see here. Mars, Neptune square. Um, yeah, very powerful eighth house with Venus, Sun, Neptune, Mercury, and then the square Mars and Leo. And then Mars and Sun have a mutual reception, right? By the square. So I mean, she has this quality. This is like the squareness, this toughness, and then she, play the movie role where where she's topless dancer or whatever. I don't know what it's called. Um, but yeah, she has that square quality. She's not like it's weird, right? She's not she's sexual, but she's not like overly like I don't know. She's not I don't know. She has this kind of hard quality to her, aggressiveness. So yeah, fifth house, Leo, Mars. So that's very good for movies, entertainment, uh, squaring this. Yeah, we're feeling the squares. What I'm trying to say in her personality and the roles she plays. Jordan Peterson, Mars opposite Neptune, right? He's opposing dragons. And it's really funny. So Mars in the 12th in Taurus. So um yeah, some aggressive psychology there going on for sure, right? Um Fighting in the back of his head. Like the 12th house planets are like I said before, they're kind of whispering in your ear, right? They're not fully conscious, but they're there behind the scenes, right? Their 12th house planets are like if you're a king and you have a trusted advisor who's also well, it depends. It could be all any kind of thing, but it would be like an advisor, right? The first house would be the king or the president or the CEO. The 12th house would be the advisor. And the advisor sometimes might be more powerful than the leader, right? You don't know. They might actually be calling the shots. They might actually be wiser, more intelligent, or more manipulative, or more powerful. And they might be the one calling the shots. So, anyway, don't underestimate 12th house. And then Mars is dignifying this Neptune in the sixth house, the mundane. But it's opposite. I mean, and he has this grand fixed square, so stubborn, right? So stubborn. Um, and he's always like fighting these ideologies and psychologies. Scorpio, Neptune and Scorpio. This kind of it's very psychological. Neptune and Scorpio, mundane, every day, daily grind. He's always fighting, like insane ideologies as well. Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo. He's got the Mars Venus right in the ascendant in Aries, right? So powerful physicality, right? The women probably love this dude. And then square Neptune. Neptune, fantasy, delusion, fun and games. And then Mars is also dignifying this Neptune because it's in Capricorn. But, that's good for sports. Why not? Makes him very entertaining, probably adds to his fame because, Neptune is going to make him more glamorous in the spotlight, in the public eye. And square is good for sports, very fitting. You have to fight, basically, fight the opposite team. Dane Rudger, he is an astrologer, one of the premier original astrologers. He wrote a book. I don't know what it's called. I know I'm bad. I should know what it's called. I don't. I just know who he is. Mars, Neptune in Gemini, also Pluto in the sixth, moving to the seventh house. Sixth house is very academic. Gemini also very intellectual, right? Neptune is excellent for, it's not the main significator of astrology, but it can definitely help. Pluto as well for especially psychology. Uranus is the main significator of astrology, and that's in Scorpio in the 11th house. So that's excellent. And that's trining his north node. So that's good. But here we have Mars ruling the fourth and the 11th and 12th in the sixth. So he was very academic and creative, and he's bringing all the higher mindedness, fantasy, psychology into his intellect and daily mundane stuff. Carl Sagan, Mars, Neptune in the fifth house, right? In Virgo. So Carl Sagan also has this sixth house Scorpio stellium for, mundane, everyday scientific research, right? But then Mars and Neptune are tightly conjunct in the fifth house for entertainment. Also, sixth house for TV shows, right? Um, and so Mars, and then fifth house for obviously the entertainment aspect. Mars ruling 12th house. So really going into like, creative movies, cinema, all that, fantasy. Yeah, but yeah, especially with Neptune, like highly creative mind, and seventh, so good with people. Um, yeah, and that's Mars is trining, or sorry, sextile Venus. It's actually dignifying this whole Scorpio stellium, but and then there's mutual reception with Mars and Mercury, not by degree, but yeah. So, he's thinking about outer space and science and things like that on the TV show. Makes a lot of sense. Britney Spears, uh, Mars square Neptune from the 12th. Um, yeah, let's see. Mars ruling the seventh and the second and the 12th. Um, I mean, she had a psychotic break, and that's quite literal here, especially with Mars in the 12th, the square of the Neptune in the third. It is tied to her son, which represents her father. Um, Also for dancing, Mars in the 12th, especially in Virgo, will, you know, that's going to contribute a lot to create physical creativity, physical arts, right? So dancing naturally works very well for Mars in the 12th. As does martial arts and yoga and other many other things. But here we see like very creative physicality, as well as some psychological, because of the 12th house and Virgo, right? Um, so, yep. Plain Staley, he was singer for, is it Alice in Chains? Yeah, 90s grunge band. Um, and so he's got it in the third house in Scorpio, right? So his lyrics, his expression, his communication, very powerful, right? Um, and that's square Jupiter in the 12th. So a lot of creativity, but like heavy and dark and aggressive. Mars is also ruling the eighth house, dispositing is Saturn, and the third, right? Obviously. So yeah, very physical creativity, good for musical instruments as well. Tesla, the most brilliant scientist. Again, Pluto on the ascendant, so really very powerful, deep thinking, kind of strategic mind. Uranus not too far away. Where's Mars, Neptune, very tight and well, no, it's tight to the south node, but 2 degrees from Mars, from Neptune, Mars, Neptune in conjunct. Now Mars is not very strong in Libra, obviously, so he did not have this physical push, right? He was a little bit passive in that sense. Um, and then his benefactor, JP Morgan, cut ties with him, right? And then actually that's Saturn series in the third house. Um, but Mars, Neptune brought that sort of chasing the vision, right? And so she's strong. So Mars is in the dominant position. Um, so it was less about his vision rather than about him achieving and doing and initiating stuff, especially, daily habits, daily grind. Always got to and he invented, that's true. He invented so many different things. It wasn't just about one thing, even though electricity, was his primary thing, but he was an inventor. He did so many things. So he was like, um, all about his, action, action oriented. Andy Warhol. And delusional. There was the inconjunct is still going to bring in, especially with that moon there. Um, gonna make him a little bit unstable. All right, he's got the Mars Neptune square exact. Right, there's so much we could talk about with this, grand fire trine, but so Mars and Taurus, Neptune and Leo, fixed. Very creative, aesthetic, beautiful. Venus is here, right? First house, 10th house. Um, Mars ruling the ninth, um, and the fourth. So, um, physicality, youth. He was a very physical artist. I mean, he did lots of stuff, different stuff, but he brought in a lot of physicality. Fourth house, ninth house, also very like high level expert. He was an advertiser originally. He worked in advertising. I think that's how he got his artistic style, the pop art. Um, but yeah, Leo, obviously, for all the bright colors and whatnot. And yeah, the square adds friction, tension. I mean, he's obviously got a lot of trines going on for the smoothness, but little square helps um, create some strength, some push. All right, we got the weekend. Terrible name, like stupid as hell. Like it's, I'm sorry, but just like if you want to like let the world know that you're a fucking idiot, call yourself the weekend. I'm sorry. But he's got a very strong Mars, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, whoa, Venus. Yeah, Mars and Saturn in the sixth. So probably the guy is a workaholic, but he's not a very nice character. I mean, he's got his moon conjunct Pluto exact in Scorpio in the fifth house. Sun in Aquarius in the eighth. I mean, geez, Louise, give me a break, kiddo. Um, he probably comes off nice because he's got you know, Cancer rising. So maybe, I mean, he can appear nice. He can appear caring, and he's got Jupiter in Cancer. So there's probably, somewhere underneath there, he probably cares about people in his 12th house and he's protected. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but maybe he is. I don't know. I really don't know him. So how would I know? But he does not seem like a savory character to me. But he's got his Mars ruling the MC, exalted in Capricorn with Uranus. So very, yeah, and Neptune, right? And then Mars ruling the fifth house, dispositing his moon and Pluto. So yeah, I mean the guy probably just is a creative workaholic. And um, with Uranus, Neptune, Venus here, it's very, yeah, has a lot of aesthetic, creative imagination. But Capricorn needs it. Capricorn has a hard time with creativity. All right, amazingly, we went through 40 almost. Last one, Betty White. All right. Neptune in Leo. From the 12th, conjunct the ascendant. Square Mars, and that's not a tight square, but Mars is in Scorpio in the fourth, so very strong Mars, right? Very strong Saturn. She has Saturn stationary in Libra, just pointing that out. But the main thing is Mars square Neptune. Um, you wouldn't think of her with Mars and Scorpio, right? I think what's interesting, I think she leans on this kind of feminine ditziness, but she's really like a boss bitch underneath it all. I mean, Sun and Venus in Capricorn, Saturn in Libra, stationary, um, Moon in Virgo, Mars in Scorpio. I mean, forget it. Like, but that was her persona. She was like writing and like producing and starring in television shows before anyone almost. I mean, she's a literal, movie or TV icon. Like, one of the, and of course, Pluto and Cancer. She was one of the original women to really make it big to be a boss in that industry. So kudos to her. Um, and she does have the Saturn in conjunct Uranus, so a real struggle for freedom against authority and oppression. But she's the boss. And yeah, movies. And there could be some delusion, fantasy here that she was dealing with. I don't know. I mean, it's quite possible. Neptune is in a sensitive place in the 12th house. So there could be, but yeah. She played a soft role, but she was really strong. And that's it. I don't really have anything else to say about the Mars Neptune. It'll become more obvious, at least for me, like when I tell you about my project, but it's not ready yet for me to talk about that, but you'll see it there. Um, but yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Mars Neptune. It's kind of like that chasing dragons, chasing a vision, bringing the physicality to the etheric ideology or creativity, things like that. And it can go many different ways. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Mediocre astrologer signing off. Man, he's okay. Hope you guys are okay. Laugh it off, take a victory laugh, win before you win. I will see you again. Alrighty. Bye for now. Thank you.